Okay, today we're going to talk about the new immigration policies that the Trump administration's doing and how it affects the Philippines. I'm not happy about it. A lot of other people aren't happy about it. Let me tell you just my opinion and how it affects everybody here. I'll be right back. Okay, let's continue. First, I want to tell you a little short story here. Bear with me and I'll get to my point. Many years ago, late 70s and earlys, jobs were kind of hard to get. I was living in Washington State, near Seattle area, and someone told me that the farmers in eastern Washington were desperately looking for help and they provide housing. So me and my girlfriend, we went over there and got a job, and they provide housing and everything. It was mainly picking fruit, apples, cherries, pears, you name it, and everything. Now, at that time, there's about 80% of the workers were illegal aliens from Mexico, and the other 20% were white people and whatever. So, kind of felt bad for these people because, you know, Mexico is a very, very poor country. They go through hard times just to go all the way from Mexico way up to Seattle area, Washington State, just to get a job to send money back to provide for their wife and kids and their family. And at that time, the farmers, well, still to this day, you know, they just did not have enough workers, you know, for the harvest, so they depended on the illegals. And you know, I got along with them great. Started learning Spanish and everything. Very, very good workers, very respectful people, in most of them, you know. And anyhow, I decided to move back on the western side and go to work elsewhere in the medical field. And after many years and everything, I decided to go back to Eastern Washington, you know, because, you know, I miss farm work. I've been a farmer all my life. So I went back there to try to get a job, and I went up and down the Columbia River, all these orchards and farms and ranches, try to get a job, and they would not hire me because I was not Mexican. I go, what the heck happened here? This don't make sense. You know, I was considered as white trash. I couldn't believe the big changes. You know, that was Wenatchee area all the way up to Oroville, Canadian border. You know, every farm was that way. So anyhow, I went back on the western side, went back in the medical field, worked in hospitals and nursing homes, and I started having heart problems and didn't have medical insurance. So I went to a clinic, and I noticed, like, you know, most of them were Mexicans in that clinic, and they denied me freaking help and any type of health care because I was not an illegal alien. Now what the hell? Here I am, an American, blah, 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 you know, and they would not accept me. Like, this is not right, you know. They give them food stamps and medical assistance and welfare assistance, and I couldn't get anything, you know. But anyhow, the years passed, and ended up moving back east in New York, you know, visit family and everything. At this time, you know, I was pretty much a Republican, you know. And I kind of bounced back and forth from Democrats and Republicans, a little bit good both and bad on both sides, you know. But the current situation now, I'm in the Philippines. I'm married to a wonderful woman. Excuse me, best thing I've done in my entire life. And I made marriage vows to take care of her. Now, I didn't receive my Social Security check, which is another story. But I got that resolved very quickly, no problem. While I was on the phone, I asked her, can I to the embassy there, you know, can I get my wife on Social Security, you know, in case something happens to me, you know? And she says, yes. get into details how that works, but the main thing is to get her to the States for at least 30 days to 35 days to get her qualified in. I'll be right back. My wife's coming to the car. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about the interruption. My wife's packing up the car. Her daughter's up from Manila. We're taking her to the bus station soon. Anyhow, to continue, trying to get my wife into the States, only to visit, is, oh my God, it takes months and months and months. Lots of paperwork, tons of money. It's just unbelievable. The red tape is crazy, and then most of the time you get denied. I'm legally married to my wife. I'm 70, she's 68. We're not going there to stay. We just want to go there and take care of some paperwork for Social Security. But that's very, very difficult. Anyhow, get back on topic, and my point is that, like I said, I bounce back and forth from Democrat to Republican and everything. And when Trump first took office, he said he wants to build the wall and down there by Mexico and start making people come in legally. I was all for that because I was upset on that story I told you about. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't get medical where illegals could. That was all wrong. I said, all right, Trump, let's kick some butt. Let's get things straight, the way it should be. And then things went haywire there. Now that Trump's back in office, he said that he wanted to deport a lot of illegals that were very dangerous and, out of prisons and, get rid of the worst of the worst. Again, I agree with all that. But it's not happening. If he does everything legally, I'm all for it. But these protests that are happening in Los Angeles and protests that are coming up on the 14th, I just saw on the internet that they're going to have No King's Day on the 14th. I don't know. These protests are mainly because there's no due process. They just pick the illegals off the street and ship them out with no court, no nothing. There's some of my wife's family is in the States, and they're overstayed. They try to go to court to straighten things up, and that's where the ICE agents are picking the people up and detaining them and shipping them out with no, no due process. That's all illegal. Let's keep things straight. Do it right. I'm all for, everybody being in the States legally, but the process that's happening now is completely wrong. It's against the Constitution, and the courts are against it and everything, but this is what all the protests are about. And what I don't understand is, Trump wants a military parade coming, and he just warned if there's any protest about it, they're going to be punished severely. Now, protest is one of our rights there in the United States, freedom of speech. That don't make sense. The Doge, they're cutting so many agencies and this and that to save money, blah blah blah, and everything. To help with the budget, but yet Trump's throwing a parade that costs more than $45 million in his honor, or plus on his birthday. That's being hypocritical. When we had the bicentennial, the 200-year anniversary of the streets, Ford was president, and he's a Republican. He didn't have no grand parade and this, that, and everything. We all celebrated just fine. It didn't cost the taxpayers nothing. There's so much wrong. I can't believe what the heck's going on back in the States. I'm a proud American, but it's just unbelievable what's going on back there. And it affects the Philippines too. the Philippines got strict immigration policies, but they don't do it like Nazi Germany, with the SS. That's what ICE is like, the SS. There's just so much. I don't know. It's very, very frustrating. I try to stay away from politics, but it just keeps creeping up on me. I can't avoid it. I just gotta have to deal with it. It's just a lot of it just don't make sense. If the Trump administration started doing things legally, then we wouldn't have these big protests and all that. And okay, I just wanted to vent a little bit there. I'd love to hear your comment. It's, I don't know. I just can't bring myself to support the MAGA movement. The old Republicans party was great in many ways, and I still support them. But I don't know. We're living in hard times here. Let's see what happens in the future, especially on the 14th coming up. Okay, I just hope I hear your opinion on all this. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just trying to get my wife to the States to have a comfortable life, to do our paperwork, and come back here and live peacefully. But I don't know. I'll do a video on that one. Okay, talk to you later. Bye. Okay, one last point I forgot to add. When Trump says he's going to punish severely about protests, anything that against him, he threatens, maximum punishment. But what I don't understand is, look at the violence that happened on January 6th, but yet he pardoned over 1,500 of them that did violent crimes and destruction and all that. They were going to hang Mike Pence. They even made a gallows with a rope to hang him and stuff, and who knows what they would have done to Pelosi and everything. But yet, that was all for him. But yet, he pardoned everybody. But anybody that talks against him about his policies or the parade or whatever, he's going to punish them severely. That's another hypocritical thing. I just don't understand what's going on. Again, sorry I'm venting, but there's just so many things that just don't make sense. I wish we had the old Republican Party back. Okay. We'll talk later. Bye.